News Talk 640 WFNC. Gerard Falls is on camera right now. You are with the Cameo Art House Theater. Ashanti Bennett is your last name, and you two are with the Cameo Art House Theater. Both of you in studio right now to tell me about the needs of that jewel downtown that we've loved for so many years. It is now a nonprofit. Give us a little background on where we are.
Absolutely. Good morning, Gilbert, and good morning to the audience. Thank you for having us. The Cameo, as many people in Fayetteville are aware, located downtown on Hay Street, is a historic theater that about 25 years ago was renovated by Chris and Nassim Kunzel, along with Eric Lindstrom, and turned into an art house theater. And they've operated it successfully, navigating things like the transition to digital, and that happened back a little over 10 years ago. And they announced in August of 2024 that they were ready to retire, and were looking for someone to take over the Cameo to help write its next chapter. And at that point, there was a lot of folks downtown in Fayetteville working in various organizations who saw that it was vitally important that Cameo remains the institution that it has grown into and grows further with that, and formed the Cameo Collective nonprofit to save it.
Now, for those who are not familiar with the facility itself, give us a little background on how many seats it has. It's a real intimate type place.
Mm-hmm.
You want to tell?
Absolutely. Do you want me to take that one?
Ashanti, you want to tell us about that? Ashanti?
Brian could give you the exact number of seats,
Well,
but I can get you very close. So there's two theaters, two screens. Downstairs is the larger auditorium that seats around 130 folks. And upstairs is the Loge, a much more intimate theater setting and a lot of people's favorites because it's just very unique as a space, which seats about 35. And then there is also what we've turned into a classroom and conference space that was previously, so the studio, which was previously a studio apartment. So those are the three sort of spaces that we're working with as far as all the cultural and arts programming that we're doing.
And what type of events are held there? Excuse me. We recently, not too long ago, had the hurricane relief program that was there, Air Angels. I was there as the MC. Excuse me. All of a sudden, I got a frog in my throat. Can't find it.
Ribbit.
And so, ribbit. And so,
go ahead. You want to clear your throat? Go ahead.
No, I don't want to clear my. I want to talk this way. I sound it's unique sound that we want to have. But the space itself is applicable for a number of different things, not only movies and stuff. Ashanti, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So, I mean, it's an art house theater, so of course there's always going to be films on the screen. We do a classic film series. We do things that are thematically appropriate to events that may be happening downtown or, holiday celebrations. We're always trying to, if it's Halloween, we're going to show spooky movies, right? But it is a multi-arts and multi-use space, and so it's available for rentals and events like you say. We have a lot of fundraisers that people rent there, private parties, etc. We've recently been adding a lot of comedy shows to the Cameo, which makes me very happy. Because just as it is a theater, it's also a venue space, and that's something that we appreciate having in the downtown arts and entertainment district down there. That folks can come in and they can see all kinds of art and entertainment in that same space, and it's unique because of the number of people that it seats. We've got very, very big venues here in Fayetteville, and then very, very intimate ones. But the Cameo hits that nice little sweet spot if you're trying to get about 150 people into a space.
I can tell you this about it as well. I set up a sound system in there for the Air Angels. The acoustic situation in there is just fantastic.
Yes,
it is just a wonderful place to do karaoke on Wednesday nights. I'm throwing that out there. I mean, there's all types of things that you can possibly do. You recently had a fundraising event, or a fundraiser, and you had hoped to raise $75,000 by April 1st, and you fell short there. Gerard, what are the efforts now, and what is the hope?
Absolutely. So it's still very important.
Move very close to the microphone.
It's still very important for us to make that goal. So we were in negotiations to form the collective. and how we would take over the theater for a while. And then, so it was October of this past year, 2026, when we signed that agreement. And that's when we started fundraising, knowing that on January 1st, we would take over the theater. And there are a lot of startup costs that come with taking over the theater. Everything has to be done again. All the inspections, all the permitting, all of the deposits with in relationships with distributors, all of that has to be done again. And we know that as well. From month to month, there was great fluctuations. So we needed, the capital to start up in a way that we felt was going to make sure that this was a sustainable project. And so getting to that goal is still very important because on our end as a board, what we're looking at is how does this theater support itself as a nonprofit, day-to-day operations wise, with what it's bringing in. How does that happen? What does that look like? And right now is that point where we have to get those costs in balance with what the expenses are. And while we're doing that, also building the revenue that we're bringing in. But all of that happening does require that there is that seed money to get this project off the ground successfully.
Beth Hudson wrote a very nice article this weekend.
She did.
Yes.
On the
It was a great
12th,
article.
and not only for about the Cameo Art House Theater, but also the Dogwood Festival and the need for funding that is needed for these types of projects to be successful downtown. And just in reading through her story, I know the Dogwood Festival put their proposal in front of the city council to see if they could provide some assistance. Are you looking for the city or the county maybe to help as well?
We haven't approached the city or county, but we started the conversations with a lot of the larger endowments in our community, like Cumberland Community Foundation, the Arts Council. Of this is the project that we're doing right now. This is the model that we're basing it on. What are our steps that we need to take to be eligible for the funding that you have? And in a lot of cases, the answer with these larger institutions, which is very understandable, is in our second year we're eligible to start applying for the very significant grants. There are some smaller ones, for example, through the Arts Council that we can apply for. But as far as things that would involve, salary support, which it will, it can be very important in the nonprofit world, that those are things that we're getting ourselves set up for eligibility. So we will be on the Giving Tuesday with Cumberland Community Foundation this coming year.
We do want that support from our city and from our county because, as you say, we think of downtown as sort of the front porch of Fayetteville, right? And inside of those, we have these institutions, these cultural assets that are sort of anchors to that space. And so we do want them to be able to buy in, if you will, and sort of show that private investment, that public investment into our arts and culture ecosystem downtown. But we want to make sure that when we go before the city and the county, we've got all our ducks in a row, be able to answer any of those questions they have, and be able to sort of forecast out what the financial situation looks like so that they know that the investment that they make is actually going to be a good one and it's going to actually contribute to that sustainability of the organization and doesn't feel like sort of a one-time short-term solution, a Band-Aid, if you will, but actually part of an integral plan to keep the Cameo going for the next 20, 25 years.
Well, the challenge that you face is the fact that everything has changed because everybody uses this thing right here.
That's right.
For their source of entertainment. They stream videos or movies or whatever it might be. And folks my age who really enjoy going to the theater and enjoying the intimacy of watching live performances or whatever it might be, you're losing that. And so you're losing a good chunk of people as you talk about 20, 30 years and making an investment along those lines. So the challenge is how do you make it creative enough for people to put their phones down for a second to come in and enjoy an event?
Well, I do think that's an interesting point, and I've noticed that in trends in entertainment in general, nostalgia is it's huge right now. I think we've all had enough of this little thing that beeps at us all day, and I personally have a desire to put that down and go do something that feels like, if you will, a kinder, gentler, simpler time of just going to the movies, getting popcorn, getting snacks, hanging out with your family, your friends, seeing a movie, having that collective experience together, because nothing can quite beat that. Besides, if you haven't had the Cameo popcorn, that's worth going by itself. But we do think that folks are looking for ways to spend time with their families, ways that are economical, and being able, like we said, to make those memories and have that collective experience together. So I don't think movie theaters and film and, again, all of the other entertainment that we want to bring into the space will ever sort of go out of style. And, you were saying some of the older folks are leaving. You guys are the ones with the disposable income, so don't
Yeah,
go
we
away.
are.
Don't
Dog
go
nog.
away. Come downtown.
Well, but I don't mean going away as we're leaving. I'm talking about going away as going up to heaven,
Yeah, right.
and we're not going to be around. Gerard, what's your perspective about that?
So
The future of
we've
it.
had a great deal of conversations about this very question. Ashanti lit up when you asked it. And one thing that we notice is that this is where we actually have an opportunity with a small community-based art house theater, because this is the question that theaters are asking. How do we fill seats when people can get entertained on their phone or anywhere? And entertainment systems in the home are very nice. How do we get them to come out? Because you make it more than just a movie theater and a movie experience. You make it a community experience. There might be a discussion before the film or a discussion afterwards. There might be a food or a beverage paired with a film. An organization might be hosting to educate folks about beekeeping in the community, or a community organization might be coming together to get Bollywood films on the big screen here in Fayetteville. These are the kind of conversations that folks are coming to us with ideas. They heard what we wanted it to be as a community space, and they came to us with their ideas for it. And one that we're very excited about is with the Fayetteville Marksmen hockey team. When they are have away games, they've scheduled some of that so that they are in the theater and they're fans, and they have a very strong and loyal fan base come to the theater to watch that game, that away game that they can't be at live, and cheer on their team and enjoy that sense of community with the other fans, which is the most fun thing about being a sports fan, is being in the arena together and cheering on your team.
Well, and I could see that being a little bit more intimate than being in the arena with a big screen, and not. It's not the same when you're elbow to elbow with friends when a score goes on. The popcorn goes in the air, or whatever it might be. So that's a pretty innovative way of looking at using the space as well. I saw something not too long ago about the death of the drive-in, for example. There was a time where you had maybe 6,000 drive-ins across the country.
Yeah,
now that number's
right.
down to about 400 or so. And people don't date and have interactions with each other, male or female, because when you can walk up to somebody and tap their phone and get their phone number, and you don't have to have any conversation or have a few lines like I know Kenny Hitman McLean did when he was dating back in the day. Kenny, you used to have lines, didn't you? You didn't take a woman to the movies, did you? You had some lines?
Yeah, hey, baby. You want some popcorn?
All right, let's quickly get Kenny off the screen.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Kenny Hitman McLean with the line of the year. Hey, baby, you want some popcorn? You want to go to the Cameo? Let's head down to the Cameo. But that was a very special time. That back in the day where people were based relationships on different events that you could go and interact. And now we have to be a little bit more creative on how that space is used.
That's right. I completely agree. And the drive-in theater, I think, is an important story, because when you lose your drive-in theater, you miss it. And a lot of communities do miss theirs. I used to live in Beaufort, South Carolina, and there was a drive-in movie theater there. And I loved going to the drive-in movie theater. And it's so frequent that you hear people talk about the drive-ins that were here in Fayetteville, along Bragg Boulevard, for example. People talk about it all the time. I bet a lot of those folks wish they could have saved it. And that's the opportunity that we have right now with Cameo.
Yeah, I remember being here stationed here in 77, 78, and there was the big drive-in on Bragg Boulevard. You see the screen. As a matter of fact, you could drive down the road and see the movie. You couldn't hear it, but you'd see the movie. And there was something very nostalgic about that, and going in and getting the popcorn, have that little sound thing inside your car in order to get the sound.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's still fun.
I remember that as a kid here in Fayetteville. That was always a good time to go with the family. But that's why we refer to these points in these collection spaces as third spaces now. I mean, we had to give it a name because they did go away. These places where you could come together as a community, where you could connect with your neighbors, connect with your friends, forget about the day's troubles, and just have a cultural experience together. And the Cameo, the downtown in general, but the Cameo and specifically is one of those spaces where you can show up. You know you're going to have a good time. You pay your ticket, you get your concessions. You know, you see Gilbert in the seat over there, you see Gerard over there, and then suddenly it's more than just sitting on your couch and watching a movie. You have somebody to talk to about it. You're laughing at the jokes collectively. You're talking about it after, and then you're downtown. So maybe the night doesn't have to end. Maybe you head up to Blue Moon Cafe and you decide to grab a cocktail and you get an appetizer and you just keep talking about it. And so it then becomes a neighborhood. It becomes a feeling that I think a lot of us are nostalgic for and missing it. And it is definitely, like you said, if you're just tapping your phone, you're not getting that conversation that you normally would.
Well, you know, the thing I noticed about Air Angels, for example, when we had that event, it was packed. And I said, oh, there's so-and-so. I hadn't seen that person in such a time. And it was interesting that they had the same interest in being involved in that event to help raise money for the victims out of Hurricane Helene in the western part of the mountains. So when you can eyeball someone as opposed to wondering what people are doing, that makes a difference. All right, so here, we're getting ready to run out of time, but we want to make sure that people know how can they help and what's the best way to do that?
Absolutely. Well, you can make a donation online. It's the same website that it's always been, cameoarthouse.com, and it's how can I help? You just click on that tab, and there's membership options for the theater and a payment system. You can also make a payment directly at the theater at 225 Hay Street, or mail the check in. Any of those work. Feel free to reach out. There is a contact us on the website if you have any questions. And Brian and James, who do an amazing job with the day-to-day operations of the theater, will be able to work with you on with whatever your needs are.
You know, I would say is a tax deductible, but unfortunately, the way the tax bill is written now, there are a lot of things that used to be tax deductible aren't anymore. Do you know if this would be?
We are absolutely tax deductible as a nonprofit, and we are fully through that process, which we initiated last year, knowing that it can take a while. So we have our tax exemption letter from the IRS, and all the authorizations were incorporated with the state of North Carolina. So as far as those who itemize their taxes, a gift to Cameo is not only very appreciated by us, but probably by your tax person as well.
All right, Ashanti Bennett and Gerard Falls, thank you so much. I got your names right, better than most people. I heard you two having a conversation. And people butcher our names. That's okay. All right, look, we appreciate you coming in. Look, good luck to you with the fundraising efforts. Is there a deadline? You were trying to raise $75,000 by the 1st of April. Didn't make it. You got 40 grand, I think is what it is.
Approximately 40 grand.
Yeah. Is there a deadline for you, or is it just going to keep on pushing?
We are pushing very hard this month, and we have probably today crossed the mark of over 10 grand that we've raised.
All right. Well,
in a fairly
in the boot real quick. All right, you're listening to News Talk 640 WFNC. Would like to right now take a look at Fayetteville's most dependable forecast with Rachel Dunsing.
Tuesday will be partly cloudy and warm with a high of 89. Overnight will be mostly clear with a low of 63, and Wednesday will be mostly sunny with a high of 93. It is going to stay hot and rain-free this week with temperatures well in the 90s through the weekend. A cold front arrives Sunday, and it will bring a few showers and then cooler temperatures for next week. That is your Fayetteville forecast. I'm CBS 17 meteorologist Rachel Dunsing.
All right, Rachel, thank you so much. 68 degrees, Fayetteville, Fort Bragg, and in Bund Level. You're listening to News Talk